Hello YouTubers, Toby Till here with Rocky Mountain Snow MX. We are here to provide you with all of your snow bike related technical videos and also any parts or accessories you may need for your snow bike. Feel free to give us a call, 720-263-7533. Good afternoon, YouTubers. Toby Till here with Rocky Mountain Snow MX. As a lot of you know, we've had the opportunity to be a Timbersled dealer and a Yeti dealer this year. We've gotten to run them side by side. We built two identical bikes, Husqvarna FE501s, meet Elmo and Gossamer. So Elmo and Gossamer have the exact same kind of build process. Tried to get as much restrictive power achieved with these bikes. They both have throttle bodies, exhaust, ECUs, and C3 intakes. These bikes also have the WP Explorer forks removed and lightweight AER forks from WP installed with RMS snow bike valving. So what we tried to do is test a couple things this year. We wanted to test a Yeti 137 against a Riot 3 Pro. We wanted to test the Selkirk engine armor with the PST versus the PST engine jacket with an OB guard. So we got to do all these things this year that bring the two together on very similar bikes, on the same snow, on the same day, to really feel the differences between the two so that we can bring quality information to you and help you with your buying decisions for 2023. So here we go. All right, so first up on the list is Gossamer. Gossamer has a Yeti 137 MT, so that's the 137 Mountain. It's equipped with stage 3 shocks. Also has, of course, all the factory Yeti things such as the 2022 track, the what people call anti-stab wheels that aren't anti-stab wheels. These are actually efficiency wheels that help guide the track onto the rails. It also has bogey wheels equipped on it. And as you can tell, we actually ride these bikes. They have a few nicks and scratches and beat up hand guards and everything else because there's no question that we want to bring you quality information. So here we go. What we find with the 137 Yeti is that it is extremely nimble. With the new spindle that came out in 2022, this spindle makes a 137 feel and ride very similar to what we knew as a 129 in years in the past. So very agile. If you want to be really quick in the trees and you want something that is truly on rails and rolls like a tire, that's really the Yeti platform. The track itself, I've got to say, it didn't live up to my expectations this year. I really felt and thought going into this season that the new Yeti track would outdo a 3-inch track, and it didn't. The new Yeti track is very nimble, it's very agile, but it's super soft. And here in Colorado, we didn't have any blower powder days that allowed us to test this track on just that champagne powder that we get here. So most of our testing that we did this year was either on springtime kind of snow or really crappy snow. So we had everything from 2 inches of fresh on a small layer of crust and then complete sugar all the way down to, the stumps and logs. Then we had, a settled base that became firm, and we had 6 inches of crust and sugar. with, 6 or 8 inches of fresh on top. And then we're, now road just total springtime setup snow where everything's set up. And in all of those conditions, this track did not like those conditions. With this track, it is very limber and it is there to scoop light, fresh snow. Well, in the conditions that we're talking, this track would literally scoop the light, fresh snow off of the crusty, hard layer. And then when this track would hit that crusty, hard layer, it would either break through the layer, go to the sugar and trench in, or it would fold and just create no traction. So track-wise, we're not a huge fan of this new track. It works well, but in our conditions that we rode this year, we actually feel that the older DTS track works a little better. Yeti is going to have this track again for 2023. This is what you'll get on 2023. This was a real struggle for us because we have a very light, 30 pounds lighter than the Timbersled Riot 3 Pro. And we had a very nimble package and a very fun package. And that fits my riding style particularly because I'm a hair on fire, twist of grip, face bleeding at the end of the day from all the trees and branches that I had. So even though this track struggled a little bit in the snow that we rode, it still was my favorite bike to ride because it's so nimble and on rails. So what I'm really trying to get at is that one size doesn't fit all, one track isn't the best. It really comes down to your riding style. This track and performance, no regrets with it whatsoever. Would I have the best thing in the world if I had this kind of handling, this kind of speed? Oh, and we need to talk about spool up. When this track starts to move, it is so efficient and it carries so much track speed, it's literally like when you come out of the trees, you start railing gears in the opening and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the way you go through the gears. Versus the big 3-inch track is more like 1, 2, 3, 4. So the Timbersled track is definitely big and moves a lot of snow, where the Yeti track is very lightweight and spools up and creates track speed. Once again, that's probably why I like this setup so well, is because it is quicker. So speed, agility, handling, everybody from myself to riders that don't ride Yetis, they get on something like this and they're like, holy smokes, this thing's really easy to ride, it handles so well. So there are big advantages with this system versus the system on Elmo with the Riot 3 Pro. Durability-wise, Yeti's been spot on. I've made every effort to resist my inter 2018, 2019 Yeti experiences, and I haven't touched a bolt on this kit. I haven't brought out the torque wrench one time, even though that's not what I recommend. I recommend everybody torque their bolts, whether it's on a Timbersled or a Yeti, every 3 rides, just to make sure you don't have a bad experience in the backcountry. But I truly wanted to test Yeti's durability this year, and I haven't tightened a bolt. I haven't had a bolt fall out. I haven't used my torque wrench one time. I've been a very bad maintainer of the Yeti system just to try it out and see what happens, and it has performed incredibly well with 0 failures this season. We did add things like the Yeti guards to the kit, that way in case we do bounce it off a rock, we may not get damaged. So, and as you can tell, we've definitely scuffed this kit, run it up against some rocks, treated it badly, but it's great and holds up super well with no issues with carbon fiber or any of that. So any other attributes with the Yeti? This is a 137. As you can see, we've got My Little Pony behind here with a 129. And, you know, a 129 Yeti on a 450 race bike is super hot. It's very poppy, spools up fast. It's even more my style than the 137 on a 501. So My Little Pony is absolutely my package. Works Edition, Honda Works Edition 450. Really hot, really fast, whips the throttle, awesome. Great combination with the Yeti, and just super fun bike. So on the Yeti side of things, depending on weight is which one I'll put you in, a 137, a 129, or even the new Snow Check 120. So there's kind of the Yeti side of things and review. We're here now with one of my customers. Craig, will you introduce yourself to everybody and kind of let them know what you do and how you know me?
Hey, Toby. Yeah, Craig Roberts, Lewiston, Idaho. Actually own a body shop here. Got into snow biking, about 6 years ago, and just like everybody, got bit by the bug pretty hard. In fact, I got my two daughters, which are twins. They just turned 25, and fortunately, their jobs allow them to ride with me, and we catch those snow days. So really enjoying that. And, you know, kind of noticed Toby online, the Snow West forums, and definitely he is the guy that has the most experience, the most knowledge, the go-to guys that love to use the dealership, but they just don't ride. They don't ride snow bikes. So Toby's my go-to guy, and just happy to have him.
So I decided to do this today because I want not necessarily just my opinion of being on Timbersleds and Yetis, but also a customer's opinion and where he kind of comes from. You know, he mentioned that his family rides. They've got multiple.
Okay.
So, Craig, will you tell us about the bikes that you and your family are on and riding, and what kits they're on?
You bet, yeah. So we still have an 18 Aero 120, still just a great all-around kit. Have a 120 Riot Velocity. Have a Yeti 129 SS, kind of my favorite still. 129 Free Ride, and then the 129 Riot 3 Pro. And it was interesting this year to compare the Riot 3 Pro to the 129 Yeti Free Ride. Both really different architecture, but similar in how they react and perform. The Riot 3 probably a little more fun factor. The 129 Free Ride just still lightweight, fast kit. But yeah, just fortunate to have so many to choose from.
Awesome. So you're kind of what everybody wants to be, right? You're the guy who has multiple kits, multiple bikes, and you really get to ride through a lot of different experiences. Do you find that one kit suits a certain rider or a certain riding style more than the other? Because, you know, when you sit down at the dinner table and you talk to your daughters and ask them what they like and why, does it kind of surprise you that they prefer one kit over the other?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that was probably the biggest surprise with the 3-inch 129 Riot. That would be their kit. That overall, if they had to pick one, yeah, there's some days that the 120 might be more playful, but that 129 Riot 3 Pro is just all around. The ski, the suspension, the shocks that are on it is just a package that works well. What they did with those shocks is just something, you get such a good trail ride, but yet the bottoming resistance with those, and that's not the premium, but the Pro package with the internal bypass shocks, they're really pretty good. It's just surprising. But yeah, that's their pick. There's days maybe they would, but yeah, after my daughter wrapped the ride in the 3-inch, she said it's hard to go back to the 120 with the 2.4 track. It's just the traction, and that's even on low snow days when you got crusty, bad snow. They still like that better.
And what kind of surprised me is that, you know, in my opinion and my experience, is that the Yeti rides so much easier on the trails and on hard packed snow, and is so much more nimble and free. I figured they would have liked that the best, but it kind of sounds like your daughters really like the fun and playfulness of the Riot pack.
Like you mentioned before, if you're a Yeti guy, you might always lean that way if you're a Timbersled and Aero person. So they have a little bit of bias towards the aero, and some of that is the ski. A couple times in the crustier conditions, the amount of arm effort and that, they're like, we just like the traverse ski, the aero ski better overall. And yeah, I mean, I think I can go faster with the Yeti ski on harder pack trail than maybe the Timbersled can. But overall, yeah, I think the lift, the Riot, the fun factor of that, they just really, and it's not big jumps we're doing, but they're still launching off the little cornices and drifts and things. And, they're still using up all of the travel. And it's surprising where I'll have the front forks set up for my weight, and they will bottom them out in the jumping they're doing, which it doesn't look like big jumps, but it's how it's landing. So they're still using up all that suspension.
Yeah, that's awesome. So looking forward, right, from riding the Yeti, riding the Riot 3 Pro, because you have a 2022 Yeti there. At the end of the year, tell me about reliability between the two. Tell me about your experiences, with maybe the way that the bikes use the kits between the two. Give me some comparisons between those factors.
Yeah, definitely. I think you notice the belt drive and the lighter weight of the Yeti a little bit. That it's maybe a little faster bike. You feel that 450 power a little more, but still for whatever the weight difference is to the Riot 3, it's still a really good kit. So I'm almost like I would be more of a Yeti person, but it's like I'd almost want to have a Riot 3 to trade off on, which was the plan of getting that one from you. But my daughter's kind of claimed it, so I might have to get something else. But I think the Yeti is lighter, a little lighter and faster, and that's where that new Gen 2 with the lighter track, the belt drive, and even I guess the Riot 3 Pro for 23. What will the belt drive do? How will that be?
For sure. Well, that's the perfect time to talk about it. So let's go with questions that you have. Obviously, I've been on them. I've got hours on them now. Ask me some questions. What do you want to know that hasn't been out there in mainstream social media?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so obviously the Aero 3 Gen 2, lighter. In many ways, we've got the belt drive. We've got a lighter track. Rotational mass is lighter, the kit is lighter. So when you were riding that, did you notice, could you feel less weight maybe in handling or responsiveness?
Absolutely. So my very first ride on it, I had talked to the engineer at Timbersled, and he quietly mentioned that this kit's nickname is the Yeti Killer. And I'm like, okay, cool. If that's what you're after, that's what you're after. I understand. But I'm going to ride it before I make my decisions.
Right.
I got done with my very first, couple miles on the kit. And all I wanted to do was find Cody, go up, shake his hand, and go, holy crap, you have gotten really close to accomplishing what you're after.
Yeah.
Because this new system with the 5.5-inch rail spacing takes that big lumbersome 3-inch track and it makes it more nimble and makes it roll more like a tire. And then of course the weight reduction of reducing 2 pounds in the track and adding the belt drive make this new Gen 2 spool up so much faster than, let's say, the Riot 3 Pro that we were riding this year. And I was even riding a Riot 3 Pro with the TKI belt drive. So, for me, I had half the package already, and I noticed a big difference, belt drive kit to belt drive kit, just by the track weight and the 5-inch rails. It was phenomenal. And for me, I'm not a Riot rider. The Riot 120 is my least favorite kit.
Right.
But then the Riot 3 now was my most favorite kit that Timbersled ever made. And when the Riot 3 Pro, I got on it, I was like, man, this thing is really cool. It's giving a Yeti a run for its money. But then when I got on the Gen 2, I'm like, holy smokes, this is better than the Riot 3. Because it gives it that nimbleness now. And this new track is not quite as hard as the previous 3-inch track. So it's got this supple feel to the way that it grabs the snow and moves the snow. it still moves the snow very similar on being able to grab crappy snow and stay up on top and all that stuff. But it does it with just a little bit of finesse now, with having a little bit softer internal paddle, but still the big lug of a 3-inch on the outer paddle. And it's still a very square style track.
Yeah.
And it works incredibly well.
Was it an improvement maybe on hard pack? As you mentioned, that square track compared to the prior Riot 3 or the prior Aero 3, that narrower rail, like you said, rolling like a tire, it was noticeable if you're on hard pack or on hard trail conditions?
So noticeable. So you really, when a Riot 3 or a 3-inch Aero gets on the gas, it just wants to stand straight up. So the bike, you're leaning into a corner and then you jump all over the gas and it just stands up and wants to go straight. So you really have to lean hard when you're being aggressive with it on hard pack. The new track wants to stay leaned down, and it wants to stay in the corner, and it wants to take that power that you're giving it and really put it to the ground and move forward that way. So in my opinion, huge improvements on the roll in and power aspects of the new system.
Nice. Did the Gen 2 Aero 3, not a Riot, but it did have a lighter front end. Did you get some front end lift on it? Maybe similar to where the new 22 Yeti Free Ride is?
So the front end is nothing like a Riot. A Riot's very light, right? And you can just always play with the bars and move around on a Riot, bring a ski up and that kind of thing. And I call that rowdy, right? I call a Riot 3 rowdy. And I call a Yeti playful, right? Because a Yeti has a little bit of ski lift, nothing that could ever get out of control and loop back around. And honestly, I tune my Riot to be more like a Yeti. I don't want the front end coming completely off the ground. I want it a little bit poppy. So, I run my TSS at almost full lock, sometimes full lock, and I run my rear shock at least halfway. Or, as I go down in elevation, I'll actually put it over to the firm. So I like a very planted Riot, but I like the fun of the Riot because I'm a Yeti guy. I like a little bit of ski lift. I like precise handling. I like the ski to touch the ground 2 feet in front of a tree and be able to lay into it and maneuver around a tree. That's all the things I like about the Yeti. Well, the new Aero Gen 2 gives all of those attributes. So previous Aero 3s, completely stuck to the ground, never get the ski off. They're more like a bullet shot out of a gun. They go straight and they do their job and everything is great. Well, the new Gen 2 is now a little bit of ski lift, way better handling, and it puts that playfulness into the kit. So everything I like about a Yeti being playful is now in the Gen 2 Aero. It's nothing like a previous generation of Aero.
Nice. And the weight's getting close, so you probably feel that light weight just in handling and performance.
12 pounds off of this kit is what the Pro model has. And when you're talking about a difference in what I rode this year, it was 30 pounds. So my Yeti 137 501 to my Riot 3 Pro Timbersled 501, it was 30 pounds heavier. So, when you take 12 pounds out of an Aero chassis and really start comparing it, we're getting close in weight. And it's kind of like the KTM Honda factor for me. A Honda motorcycle, a CRF 450R that I'm in love with, it's portly. It's 12 pounds heavier than a KTM 450 SX. But what the Honda gives up in weight, it makes up for in power. Where the KTM gives up, it has the reduction of weight, but it doesn't have the same power delivery as the Honda. So I kind of use that same equation on the Yeti versus Aero Gen 2. What the Yeti gives up in track, the Gen 2 makes up for in track. So it really, at the end of the day, for me, riding both, Yeti, Aero Gen 2, it comes down to just a couple main factors. They both ride incredibly well. And if I could have a Yeti with a Gen 2 Aero track, that'd be the only kit that I'd sell all my customers because it would be the most awesome kit on the market. But I can't have it. We can't have our cake and eat it too right now.
Right.
So deciding between the two for me is truly, am I scared of carbon fiber chassis versus aluminum chassis? That's a big deciding factor for a lot of customers, and that's just a personal choice.
Yes.
Reliability and performance and all that between the two, in my opinion, and being on them for years, they're both the same. You hit a Timbersled hard, you're going to be replacing panels, maybe a tunnel top, maybe an other side panel, or maybe just one panel. You hit a Yeti hard, you're going to be replacing a tunnel. At the end of the day, if you hit a Timbersled as hard as you hit a Yeti to make a tunnel replacement happen, you're going to spend $3,000 on a Timbersled. You're going to spend the same kind of money on a Yeti tunnel after your first use of the carbon fiber exchange. So that stuff really doesn't matter to me, but to a lot of customers, you know, they're scared of carbon fiber. So if you're scared of carbon fiber, the Timbersled is probably a better choice for you. If you're trying to get all out weight reduction, high track speeds, really kind of fun momentum riding, then the Yeti is a great choice. Now, we talk about just a couple other things that are standouts, right? You've had experience this year with the new Timbersled TSS QSL. And I've never been a TSS fan in years in the past. I didn't feel that they worked correctly, but now that the QSL is out, it absolutely works perfect. You know, when you head up a steep incline, it doesn't make the bike trench like the previous TSSs did. It rides right up, it digs hard, it keeps you on top. It's perfectly valved. You can lock it out to be almost like a soft strut. So having a TSS option in the Timbersled is huge to me. Well worth the money in the Aero Gen 2 or in the Riot 3 chassis. Yeah. Totally worth the $1,200. What do you say, Craig?
It works really good. We set it up as they said. So a lot of people are setting them up too soft, not enough air pressure. So they recommend a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of travel with that O-ring. And Riot monitor that, and we had the quick select switch just on medium all the time. And we had it set up to where we're getting that 1/2 to 3/4 inch. It took that spine tingler out of it, gave it just that little bit of soft ride, but yet you still had consistent performance out of it. And we really 90% of the time never changed it. Right at that setting was just nice. It felt good. We were getting that extra travel, but it wasn't too much to change the geometry of the kit.
Yeah, I feel the same way too. And then other things that, you know, help buying decisions between the two kits. I feel that service parts, you know, through me as a dealer with either system are top notch. You know, I can have Timbersled parts here if they're not on back order, and that's the world we live in. But I can have Timbersled parts here, you know, within a couple days. I can have Yeti parts here in a couple days. So both of those equal out. And it really, to me, may come down to, you know, does the buyer already have Yeti experience and wants to try something new like yourself? Because Yeti has bold new graphics for 2023 and a few little changes, where Timbersled has huge changes, and they're really making a super solid run at the top of the market, right? Because we're not talking about $4,000 Timbersleds here. We're talking about kits with TSS, and you know, when you talk about a $7,600 Riot 3 or Aero Gen 2 plus $1,200 fitment, you know, they leave my shop almost equal in price. A Yeti and a Timbersled are within $200 of each other by the time they leave my shop. So your buying decision shouldn't be based on price because you're buying top-end kits from both manufacturers, and both manufacturers are truly putting out kits that are rivals. And at this point in time, when I look at 2023 product, and I think about what I would do as a consumer, man, it is such a coin toss because they're so different, but they're so the same, right? The Yeti is speed and agile. The Timbersled is fun and playful and has the big 3-inch digging track. So it really has to come down to, you know, are you a very hair on fire, face bleeding kind of rider that's going to get the most out of a Yeti? Or do you want that snow eating awesome track that really handles well out of a Timbersled? What do you think, Craig?
Well, like you said, though, the Gen 2, that track and the lightweight and trying to maybe get close to the Yeti performance, that puts it very much in that Yeti feel, the performance, the handling of that. While it's still Aero DNA, it's getting closer. So obviously this year, I did snow check with you a Gen 2 Aero 3. So that will put that right up next to the 22 Riot 3 Pro and the 22 Yeti Freeride. So I think I'll always have a Yeti in the trailer, but the Aero 3, the Gen 2, just looks appealing. It looks like something I've got to try. So is it an edge over the Freeride? I don't know. You've ridden it, so you would know more. But it looks, the specs, it looks really good.
Yep. And it, you know, there are certain aspects of it that is an edge over the Freeride, for sure, over the Yeti Freeride. So, you know, each dog has its day, and it really all depends on snow conditions, because as we all know, when we have this much snow and hard crust and sugar, that's a different day than, you know, 2 feet of blower powder. So, and each kit reacts differently because of the track differences. You know, there's a monster difference in the 2 tracks, for sure.
Right, yeah. And we're northwest Idaho. You know, our snow is wetter, heavier. We don't have that light, fluffy, sugary snow. So that's a lot of what I'm judging upon. But again, both, I did the Yeti 129 Freeride track. That new track works really well. It actually, it bites well. The Aero 3, Riot 3-inch track is maybe a little bit better in crustier snow and maybe not quite as good in powder, but still overall, again, you know, still go back to what my girl said, that Riot 3 Pro all around just performed really well. Much more than I would have thought it would with that 3-inch track.
So Craig, we'll probably wrap things up here. Do you have any more questions that maybe we didn't cover yet in the 2023 releases of both products?
You know, not really, other than the S kit. Did you have a chance to ride that? But last year you didn't really favor an S kit at all, maybe because of the ride height?
Okay, so once again, I don't favor the S kit. I have a Aero 3 Gen 2 S kit here in the shop, and I got to spend some time on the S kit. And really what it comes down to is I personally feel that if you need the advantages of an S kit, advantage being closer to the ground, easier to put your feet down, more secure feeling on the hard packed trails and harder snow, then an S kit is a really great thing. Yeah. But if those areas of your snow biking really matter to you greatly, you're probably not a big time backcountry rider. You're probably a little bit lower on the experience scale, and you probably don't ride super hard terrain. And so my opinion is that if you're that kind of rider that needs that help in those areas, then something like a Riot S is a Riot 120S, you know, is a perfect fit, right? Because you're not running deep, big backcountry stuff. You just need a more stable bike that's easier to handle. And the S model really is great in that performance level. You know, my wife rides that kit because she's that kind of person. You know, she's not going to go out and break branches all day with me, and her face is not going to be bleeding when we come back to the trailer. So an S kit 120 is great for her. Now, my real opinion is when we start talking these high-level pro kits with internally bypassed shocks and all the bells and whistles, you're spending big money on this kit. And you're buying a top-end kit to have maximum performance out of, and to chop 3 inches of suspension out of everything that this kit has to give is such a negative effect on this high-end kit that it's, in my opinion, totally worthless to a good rider.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good summary.
Yeah.
So maybe when I'm about 80, you'll have one set up for me. You got to help me get on it, and I'll putt around and be good.
And you'll still probably outride all of us.
Sounds good. Exciting to have the choices we have.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, I guess we'll sum everything up with telling Craig thank you for his time investment and his opinion of all the products that are out there right now. And if there's any questions, please let us know, and I can definitely get back to you. And Craig, you and the girls, thank you for supporting us and what we do. All right, now it's Timbersled's turn with the year-in review of the 2022 Riot 3 Pro. Once again on Elmo, FE501, built identical to Gossamer for the most part. We had a blast on this kit. Being Yeti people, it's definitely difficult to ride a Timbersled when you come off of a Yeti, just like it is for a Timbersled guy to get on a Yeti and ride it. The skis are much different, but very similar. So a Timbersled ski will plant, be firm, be able to carve through tight obstacles with no issue, can be ridden down the trail at, you're not supposed to, 45, 50 miles an hour. It really is a good solid ski, but it feels weird when you go from one platform to the other. So all you have to do to make a Yeti ski work or make a Timbersled ski work is change your seating position on the bike from what you're used to on one kit to the other. It's just a difference in weight balance that's the transition between skis. When you have the same bikes, different kits, you really can experience true live what ski you like better, what ski you don't, what kit you like better, what kit you don't. And ski-wise, I feel that both skis are equally great and they both handle well. I just have to remember that when I get on a Timbersled, my seating position is different than when I'm on a Yeti and vice versa. Let's talk about this. When we first put this kit on, it actually didn't go on the 501. It went on My Little Pony. So the first time we rode the Riot 3 Pro was on a CRF 450R Works Edition. Talk about an e-ticket ride. It was just poppy and railing. I felt like I was riding a pogo stick, and I could be extremely aggressive and make the bike really pop and rear up and jump just the smallest of obstacles with ease, right? And just rowdy as all get out, having a great time. And we rode it with the chain drive. Then after, 3 or 4 rides, maybe 5 rides, we put the TKI belt drive on it and ran the TKI belt drive for the rest of the season. We noticed a great amount of difference in the efficiency of the kit and how it spooled up when we went to the belt drive. So the new Timbersled belt drive should and does give that same effect to these big 3-inch lumbersome tracks. Gives it a little bit more spool, a little bit more efficiency, really does work great. Then we changed over from the 450 race bike to the FE501. Completely changed the kit. It was no longer poppy, and it wasn't like you're riding a pogo stick anymore. It's more of a get it done but have fun mentality. So it wasn't on the top of the rowdy scale, it was more down on the playful scale on the 501. And that's all because of 2 things, right? 501 makes big grunty power that's down low and rolls into, where the 450 has this massive top-end power hit that brings it to the rev limiter. When you combo that with the 3-inch track, the 3-inch track acts 2 different ways. So when you hit this 3-inch track with big 450 race bike power, the 3-inch track wants to dig instantly, and it wants to bring the front end up, and it wants to pop, and it wants to just really have a good time. Where when you hit the 3-inch track with low-end torque 501 kind of power. It wants to dig and it wants to move and it wants to be light on the front end and playful. So bike selection going on with Riot 3 Pro selection does change. One is not like the other. So think about that when you're building your bikes. The Riot 3 Pro in adjustability, talk about awesome. So when I'm here in Colorado riding 10, 12,000 feet, you know, I've got this thing opened up. I've got the rear shock on half. I've got the TSS on half. And that's just perfect fun playfulness, not looping out and crashing when I'm in the tight trees and not being able to stay on my line. So that's where I find that this bike worked perfectly here at our elevation. Now, last weekend when I went to Island Park and I rode 8,000 feet of elevation, totally different program. I had to actually put the TSS on full lockout and I had to put the rear shock on full firm to get the same kind of controllable ride out of this same bike just by changing, you know, approximately 3,000 feet of elevation. Because when the bike makes more power, it makes the Riot move more and it makes the Riot more poppy. So that's why the adjustability in the QSL TSS shock and the internally bypassed shocks is really critical to Riot performance and the way that you want to ride. Especially if you're a rider like myself that doesn't want to wheelie all the time, but wants to just pop the front end up and jump small bumps. So having this shock package on this is absolutely top notch. These are truly the best shocks I've ever ridden on a snow bike. Absolutely incredible performance from these shocks. Hats off to Timbersled and those guys for coming up with these shocks. Other things about the Riot that are awesome, of course we all know, the 3-inch track. 3-inch track is incredible. 3-inch track will chew through light fluffy snow, it will scoop light fluffy snow, and it will absolutely chew through sugar, kind of settled snow base, and still stay on top and still move and still put that power to the ground. The 3-inch track is absolutely awesome. The 3-inch track has some negativity though with me. It's not a handling machine. It's not a Ferrari, you know. It's a two-wheel drive pickup that gets the job done. So this 2022 3-inch track does a wonderful job. It moves snow, but the handling of it is not quite what I like, right? So when you jump on this track and you jump on it with power and you're laid down into somewhat of a corner, you know, this track is going to kind of stand you up because it digs and it digs down, and wherever your weight is, it's going to dig in a straight line. So it kind of stands you up and brings you through versus staying laid into the corner. So that's something I didn't particularly like about the track, is how hard of an edge that it has. But there's just not too many negatives to this track and this kit. I feel like this setup has given what I have always called, you know, the top performer of the snow bike industry a true run for its money. This kit is absolutely playing at the top of the game. And from our experiences from the two bikes, one day this kit outrode the Yeti, and on one day the Yeti outrode the Timbersled, and it just went back and forth. But they're two completely different setups, they're two completely different rides, two different riding styles. So there's not a clear winner. There's lots of muddying the waters because this kit's fun and this kit's rowdy. This kit moves a lot of snow. And so they both have their optimum performance in days, and they're both good that way. Now, let's move forward. So Timbersled now has come out with the Aero Gen 3 that I got to ride last weekend up in Idaho. I have one here that I'll be riding all week. Talk about incredible. The Gen 2 Aero has now taken the things that I didn't like about the track in the Riot and completely changed it. So it's now on 5.5-inch rails, which that 5.5-inch rail spacing takes that track and allows it to lean over into a corner and feel more like a tire. You get on the gas on this new setup on the Aero Gen 2, it doesn't stand you up. It stays in the corner, it keeps hugging, it keeps moving. The nimbleness and agility that the new system has in Gen 2 Aero is so much like a Yeti that it does an awesome job of really precise handling. The track is different. So the track is a little softer on the inside of the track in the middle and still just as hard on the outside. And what that does, it takes away the bulldozer kind of feel of the big 3-inch track, and it gives you a soft, supple kind of roll and ride in comparison to the old track. So it's right on the money. While it's still scooping big, heavy snow and making the bike move, it does it with some more finesse than the old 3-inch track does on the Riot and Aero 3s. The new Gen 2 suspension really keeps it on point. You know, in my opinion, the previous Aeros I didn't enjoy riding because they were just stuck to the ground. They were like a bullet and wasn't my kind of riding style. I like playfulness. Well, the new Gen 2 chassis is playful. It is right on the money with lifting the ski just a little bit, toting the front end to have some fun, big track, digging, on point. Such a super job that they did with this new chassis. Rides really, really well. And it's even harder to say which one is a winner now because I feel that the Aero 3 Gen 2 is a better riding machine than the Riot 3 Pro is for my riding style. So now we just stepped up Timbersled's game one more to really give it a run for its money against the Yeti. And I feel that if I could have this track on a Yeti, it would be the most incredible machine out there. But we don't. So we have something that weighs just a little bit more, but handles super well, has the best track in the market on it, in my opinion, versus, you know, the Yeti. And it's a very difficult decision of what you want to buy because it really comes down to your riding style and how you like to ride. I like everything that the Aero does. I like everything that the Yeti does. The Yeti is still probably just a little bit in my favor because of when I get to springtime hard-packed snow and the Yeti is performing extremely well and very agile and super nimble. I like that. The Aero chassis is not far from that, but it's still just a little bit behind. And then of course on the bigger, deeper days, the Aero chassis and the track outperforms the Yeti because of the track that's on it. You can't make a bad decision between the two for sure, but what you can do is really decide what you're going with by what bike you're coupling it to, you know, whether it be a race bike, 450 race bike, or a big 501 kind of power, because, you know, if you're riding a 501 kind of power and putting out that big low end torque, then the big 3-inch track is definitely more for you. If you're riding a 450 race bike and you're wanting to be really just on the pipe and hard hitting all day, then the more efficiency and lighter weight of the Yeti that generates track speed might be for you. So it's a hard decision for sure. Both companies are playing at the top of their game. Both of them are equal in price. By the time a Yeti leaves my shop and a Timbersled Aero 3 Gen 2 or Riot 3 Pro with TSS fitment, they're within a couple $100 of each other. So it doesn't really matter which one you choose. They're both top performers. It really comes down to, are you scared of carbon fiber or not? Do you want just a little bit of advantage of weight reduction and efficiency or not? Or do you want the big, awesome track versus a track that lays down just a little bit? So that's really the buying decisions. There's really 3 things by the end of the season that you'll want to pay attention to when you're snow checking in 2023. Snow check goodies. Timbersled with Pro models, you get a 4-year warranty and $300 worth of accessory credit. So your $1,200 TSS, you can print the 300 TSS Fitment Kit, you can print the accessory credit towards that, and it only costs you 900 bucks. Yeti, you get a $300 set of freewheel kits to move it around the shop, and you get a $300 cargo rack with it as freebies, and colors in both. So not huge differences in snow check benefits between the two companies. So hopefully this helps you in your buying decisions. I'll kind of try to give you as much rundown and knowledge as I know between the two, good, bad, and different. Hope you guys have a wonderful week. Call me for your snow checks. We ship everywhere, pretty much in the world, along with all your snow bike accessories and parts. Thank you very much for your time. Toby Till with Rocky Mountain Snow MX.
Hello YouTubers, Toby Till here with Rocky Mountain Snow MX. We are here to provide you with all of your snow bike related technical videos and also any parts or accessories you may need for your snow bike. Feel free to give us a call, 720-263-7533.